Good afternoon, everyone. So I am Rebecca Collier, and as she mentioned, I come from Borough, Manhattan Community College, where I teach in the theater program. We started Brightspace in summer, this past summer, summer 24, and I taught both summer session 1 and summer session 2. So I got 2 full semesters of Brightspace under my belt, and I'm currently teaching on Brightspace now. I do both asynchronous, hybrid asynchronous, and in-person classes. So it has been a broad mixture of how Brightspace is applied. The theater program students are very creative and very visual. And so I'm going to talk to you today about how Brightspace has some opportunities to make a more inviting space for students that is very visually appealing. We're also going to look at the gradebook and how the gradebook in Brightspace is fundamentally different from the gradebook that we are used to in Blackboard. And I'll finish up with some kind of things to watch out for, some things to look at, and especially remember as you're developing your course that can seem a little bit problematic while you're trying this new thing out. So I'm going to begin by showing you my Brightspace page. Yours will look a little different because your institution will brand it. As you can see, ours has BMCC, this blue bar. And welcome, Rebecca. This is our college campus. That's on everyone's Brightspace. But something that's a little bit unusual is that Brightspace has decided that the courses should look interesting. And so it's going to import all of your old classes and give them a little picture. Because it's AI, this picture has nothing to do with your class. For instance, the Eiffel Tower, intercultural communication, I guess that could work. Public speaking, the Aurora Borealis, there's not always a lot of tie-in, but you will have a chance to choose your own picture, an image that represents your course that will help you quickly find it visually. And I think that can be a lot of fun. In your course, you will have a chance to change your name. When you send an email to your students in Blackboard, all of this gobbledygook is in the subject heading. And let me just pull up an old course to show you what that looks like. Let's go to all of my classes here. And you'll see if I were to email the students from this course, it would say all this information: summer 2021, PCL, fundamentals, HE, all these codes that the registrar needs that our students don't care about. However, this is Hostos, so they're not on Brightspace yet. Let me go to a BMCC class. So here we go. So if I want to change that, I can actually make that more interesting or more easy, a simpler thing. And I actually, in Brightspace, can change it to just say, maybe I just want it to say public speaking, just to make it easier, fall, and SB 102, the main course thing. If they don't know what college we're at, boo for them, and save that. And now my course has a different name. And when I email students, the subject of that email only includes this information: fall 2021 public speaking, here's the code. So you can really put whatever you want. Theater with Rebecca. I don't know how you want to brand that, but it gives you some freedom to make it more visually interesting or less complicated and confusing to students. In Blackboard, when we set up our modules, it was a list of text and you could make some images. It was tricky to find. But in Brightspace, it allows you to put an image on all those modules. So these are my modules for a theater class. You can see I have introduction, stage lighting, spaces, costumes. And Brightspace is going to import a very basic picture in there, but I was able to go in and put a picture that related to the module. So when students come into my space, they see the topics and they see a little visual representation. What is that going to be about? And it just makes it exciting for students. It also puts the faculty information front and center. So in Blackboard, this was hidden. We had a little kind of business card where you could put information. And in Brightspace, it has on your homepage your picture, a little bit about you. And so sometimes in an asynchronous course, they feel like grading machines to students, especially if it's tethered to a textbook. They read and they get great feedback. But here the instructor is very present in Brightspace, and I think it's kind of a nice, warm, engaging environment. So if they want to see the list of all topics, that list is still there over on the left side, but you can still have all these fun visuals that really pop for the students. So visually appealing is one of the selling points of Brightspace. I think one of the reasons why we switched over, perhaps. There are, however, some challenges, and the gradebook is where it has a little bit more challenging. There is a learning curve. So in Blackboard, we just had gradebook, but in Brightspace, we have 2 places. So we have a place to enter grades and we have a place to manage grades. For those of you who use Blackboard a lot, there was also something called needs grading, where you could click on it and see anything the students had recently submitted, recent posts on the discussion board, or quizzes that they've taken. That is still in Brightspace. It's just called Quick Eval. So just a mental note, this is the same feature, but with a different name, essentially. Quick Eval is your needs grading. However, we have two places in Blackboard where we deal with student grades: enter grades and manage grades. And they're in different links. It's important to take a look at that. When we go into enter grades, I'm not going to show you my enter grades because there's confidentiality, but this is a blank one provided by Brightspace. And it looks kind of like what we were expecting it to look like from Blackboard. We have the student names, we have their different assignments. If it has a little dot, this is kind of similar to Blackboard. That means it's ready to be graded. You can click on it and grade it. These little carrots, you can click on it and grade everything all at once, enter the grades. One thing about Brightspace that's kind of fun is at least when it's set up at BMCC, it automatically color codes. So you can quickly see blue is our high achieving students. I think green is the B range. The C range is yellow. They start to get orange for the D range. And then it gets very red for the students that are not passing. So you can kind of visually scan through and see how students are doing in a course. And that's what we expect to see. We enter our grades here. But how do we set all this up? A lot of faculty had a lot of questions about this. When you set up grades, you have to go to a completely different place, manage grades. Manage grades has no student names. There's nothing linked to students. There's nowhere to enter grades from here. All of these little question marks just give you information about the quiz. They don't actually, you can't grade anything from manage grades. But manage grades lets you add things. It lets you, in a separate area, delete things. It lets you reorder things. So when you're organizing a weighted grade center, you'll do that all under manage grades. So just remember, you organize your grade book under manage grades, but you actually do your grading in enter grades. Two different spaces, and that's something that we didn't do in Blackboard. This is a new thing for us here. So that was probably the biggest shift that I've seen from Brightspace to Blackboard in my teaching. And then there are some things that we want to be aware of, and I'm going to go over these and then show you in my course how they work. So in Brightspace, things default to invisible, and it's not super clear. There's a little eyeball you have to click, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if you're having trouble, my students can't see the assignment, it just might not be visible. You forgot to click the gray eyeball. And when you transfer things over, it's a little buggy sometimes. Those eyeballs are not always clicked. So I'm going to show you this. In Blackboard, you could make some edits on an assignment, and then you could roll the assignment over to a new week and change the text of what it explains. Like you could say, a paper assignment could say, submit draft here. And then the same assignment could say, now respond to students. In Brightspace, just remember, you're always editing the master copy. If I edit a discussion board in Module 2, it affects that discussion board anywhere it is in Brightspace. This is a Brightspace thing. And then you can have things that have points attached to them that are not in the grade book. Assignments need a start date. So I had students the first time I taught, log in and try to take the final. What? How do they see that? Because the module was closed, but Brightspace keeps the assignments and tests and discussions in a separate section students can access. So because I didn't have a start date, students could start that assignment whenever they felt like it. And then when you post a Brightspace announcement, it's been buggy for me. I find that CUNY first, I always double post. I do a Brightspace announcement and I copy the text over into Brightspace. So I do it both places, Brightspace and CUNY first. And I'm going to show you a couple of those things. So let's say I have an assignment. So in Brightspace, all of my activities, assignments, discussions, and quizzes can be found from the toolbar as well as in your modules. So a student could go into assignments and find an assignment that is due at a later point. And if it doesn't have a start date, they could start it today. Let me see if I have one. So mine have due dates. Mine actually are assignments for this class that they do in class for a theater class. But let me show you do I have a discussion board? Yes. Okay. So for this discussion board, I put in a start date because otherwise they can just start discussing before we've read the text or discussed it in class. I've included these start dates. If I didn't have the start date, a student could do those at any point during the semester. And let me show you a quiz here. Okay, so this quiz, notice this little eyeball is not clicked. It's near the top of the page. There's a gray eyeball. Every assignment discussion board has a little eyeball. If your students cannot see something, don't panic, just double check. Is the eyeball clicked? If you click on the eyeball, it turns blue and the students can see it. So that's the biggest pitfall, is making sure things are visible. This particular quiz has 100 points. The students can take this quiz. It will not affect their grade. It is not in the grade book. And you might not catch this. You might have copied your course over. It looks great. It has 100 points. It has a due date. The students are taking it and their grade is not changing. Why? Always make sure things are in the grade book. That way, I didn't have a problem with that in Blackboard. It was automatically in the grade book. So if you want something to be graded, just make sure this not in the grade book says in the grade book. And if I add, I'm not going to add this, this is a current class, but if I add it to the grade book, it will say in the grade book so that we know that it's there. So that is an important thing to look out for as well. All in all, I have found that it takes about, I would say, 2 semesters to really feel like you've got Brightspace down. Play with it. The more you play with it, the more comfortable you'll feel. Try some things out. The way I mostly try things out is I go back into my old classes, maybe from like 2020 or 2021, and I play with those classes. Students have left. It's not going to affect anything. And I try some things out before I try them in my current classes. I know many of you have sandboxes, but it's helpful sometimes to play with your own content before you are able to do it live for your students.